My name is Nicolas Tricher from McAfee, and today I'm going to guide you through the deployment of McAfee ESM on Microsoft Azure. So first, we start by selecting an Ubuntu server with TLS capability. Now the reason we need that server is to run a Linux script, which will allow us to create the final VM for McAfee ESM. So we have to select the right resource group, and then give a name to the machine. Specify the region in which we are going to run this VM in the Microsoft Cloud. Select the size of this machine, and for this machine, we can take the smallest size available, which is also the most cost-effective. We'll be logging to that server using a username and password. And finally, we also need to enable SSH because we will be using SSH to copy the script files and to access the console of the Linux server. So now we are creating this VM. So we can review the last parameters before we click on the Create button. Now, please note that throughout this video, we are accelerating some of the steps. So for example, here, we're going a little bit faster, and now we can see that the virtual environment has been created for our Ubuntu server.
This process took about 3 minutes.
The next step is going to be to copy the McAfee installation script on that VM. So in the manual, we use SCP here because I have downloaded the file on my PC before. I'm going to use WinSCP instead. So I connect to the IP address of that machine, which I got from the details on the Azure portal. I log in with the username and password, which I've just created before. And then I'm going to copy the file which I downloaded from the McAfee website. So let me show you where I copied it from. So using my grant number, I was able to access the Azure install script here. And that's for a combo. So that's a all-in-one ESM, ELM, ERC for the McAfee SIM. And I'm going to copy this file on the Ubuntu server. Now note that that file is 2.4 gigabytes. So here we're going to accelerate the time it took to transfer the file and then go to the next step.
This took about 55 minutes.
The next step is to use Putty to connect to the server. So we can see that the server environment is running. We can see the public address of that machine. So I'm going to connect via SSH to that server. Again, I'm using the username and password which I created when I created the VM. And from there, I'm going to follow the instructions from the release notes. So I'm copying the different command lines from the release notes. Okay, and here I have accelerated the video, so I'm going to copy every line one by one. Now, for this one, if that's the first time you do it, you will need to authenticate the device on the Microsoft website. Okay, so typically you would do it here, but because I've done it before in this environment, I don't need to do it here. All right, so now we need to install a couple of packages from Azure.
This process takes about 7 minutes.
And once those packages are installed, then I will need to authenticate to Azure. Okay, so this is the command line to authenticate to Azure. And from this one, I'm going to receive a token, which I'm a code, which I'm going to copy on the Microsoft website to authenticate. Okay, so the sign-in was successful and the command line was copied. So now I need to change the permission of the installation script. All right, now I need to connect with super user privileges and then run the script. Now the first thing that it's going to ask me is to authenticate with another code again on the Microsoft website. Okay, once I do that, it's going to decompress the file and run the file. Now, please note that this will take a while. So here again, we are accelerating the video.
This took about 20 minutes.
One thing to note as well is that the Azure interface tend to change. So this video was recorded in November 2018, and that might change after that. So as we can see now, we have a new image here, which was created by the script. And from that image, we're going to create a VM. So I need to specify the resource group again, give a name to that virtual machine. Specify the right size for that machine. So because this is a McAfee combo, I need to ensure that I give 8 cores to that machine and ensure I have enough memory also allocated for that machine. All right, and then I need to specify a username to connect to that machine. Now, we are not really going to use that username to connect to the machine because the next step after the installation of this VM will be to run this VM and to connect directly via HTTPS. So because we're going to connect via HTTPS, we need to enable HTTPS. We may as well enable HTTP and SSH.
That the username and password here will be replaced by the default McAfee ESM accounts.
Then need to attach a disk to give enough storage for that McAfee ESM combo. Now I'm going to give 2 terabytes of data. Please note that on Azure, the maximum storage available is 4 terabytes.
For a combo or an ESM, you can assign 2 new disks.
And once I've done that, I can create my VM.
This final process took about 4 minutes.
All right, so now it's creating the VM and it's gonna start it after that automatically. So now what I can do is stop the Ubuntu server, which I created in the first stage of this deployment because I don't really need it anymore. In fact, I could delete this Ubuntu server as well. Now that the VM is properly started, I'm going to be able to connect to it by HTTPS. So let's copy the IP address and connect via HTTPS. And when I do that, I can see the McAfee ESM console and connect as I would normally connect for any installation of McAfee ESM.